Good morning or good afternoon to our merry Marvelites, wherever you may be. Thank you for joining us for our second conversation about Black Widow. And again, on a special day and time, more of you have had time to watch it. So again, I'm Christian Blatt, and just like last time, Kate Cornell is with us. But now we've decided to let these guys see the movie. We saw it, what feels like months ago, Kate, right?
I know.
We saw it so long ago. But finally, we're like, you know what? We should really let Jeff and Eric watch it. So with us, Jeff Williams Jr. and Count Eric Connor, who, for video listeners, will see he's listed as Harbor's beard. And it's true. You could have been a beard double for the Red Guardian. And we are going to dive into Black Widow and talk about all the spoilers just like we did last time. So if you haven't seen it, you should tune away. You can go watch it in your house if you like, and we'll talk about that. But before we dive into Black Widow, I do want to talk about congratulations are in order for WandaVision being nominated for an Emmy for Best Limited or Anthology Series and Best Actress in an Anthology or Limited Series for Elizabeth Olsen, and Best Actor in an Anthology or Limited Series for Paul Bettany. So both Wanda and Vision are nominated. For Elizabeth Olsen, she is up against Mayor of Easttown herself, Kate Winslet, but also, interestingly enough, for Queen's Gambit, she's up against Magic from the New Mutants. Anna Taylor-Joy. So we've got two Marvel characters in that category, but it's great. And Kate, you worked on WandaVision, as we talked about. So when you heard that news, how did you feel for everybody associated with the show?
I was very excited, and it's well deserved. She worked very, very hard, and the people who put that show together all really cared about what they were doing. And so it's nice to have people who care about their material and care about what they're doing get rewarded with a nomination. I think that's very cool. Congrats to Matt and all of the production team on it to make that possible. And Lizzie, I loved working with her, so I was just I'm very happy for her.
Yeah,
I was kind of sad that Catherine didn't get, anything, but like Catherine is going to come back. So it's been kind of confirmed that, this is not Agatha's last hurrah in the MCU. So that was nice.
It has been and will be her all along. Jeff, do you think that that Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen are kind of pissed because like Elizabeth does 8 episodes of TV and gets nominated? They did hundreds of episodes of Full House. Possibly thousands. And I don't think any of their direct-to-video mystery videos got nominated. I don't think they've ever been nominated for anything, is what I'm getting at. And they've literally been in the industry since they were babies. Do you think that they're pissed at Lizzie?
I mean, they're a little salty. I mean, I was one that grew up with the Olsen twins, watching them in Full House, and then on their little spy adventures and whatever the Disney Channel shows or movies they were on. But I love watching them. But you also see Lizzie go through all those different years of the TV series, TV sitcoms, and wrap that up in 8 episodes and win an Emmy. So she's doing something.
Well, she's nominated, but
nominated.
From your mouth to Odin's ear, I would hope that some magic is at play, but not Ilyana Rasputin magic. Eric, I'm sure that you heard the Emmy nominations, and you're probably furious about some show that we've never heard of that wasn't nominated.
Actually, that is not me. I thought Mayor of Easttown, Queen's Gambit, Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso, by the way, like everyone who walked in front of the camera got nominated for Ted Lasso. Yeah. So like spectator number 7 got nominated. I mean,
spectator number 7 had a good arc.
Spectator number 6, I think really got snubbed.
Kind of phoned it in.
It's hysterical. There's like 4 shows that basically got all the nominations.
Yeah. And
also, I also have to correct myself. Catherine did get nominated for Best Supporting Actress.
Okay, cool.
Best Supporting Actress in the Limited. She did get nominated.
Oh, so that's great. So that's
you can hear Michael Shirley's tears hit his keyboard.
Sorry to interrupt. I just had to correct myself before the comments.
No, I appreciate that. If one of the supporting characters was going to be nominated, it should be her. I think she had a great turn on the show. So, but still, our apologies to Kat Dennings and Randall Park, and the actress who played Monica Rambeau, Timona Paris. Is that how you say her name? And I don't have it in my head.
Tiana Parrish.
Okay, yeah.
We'll see them again. They'll be back. I mean, all of them will be back.
Yeah. But only Catherine Hahn got nominated. But so that's 3 acting nominations, and nothing for Quicksilver, huh? They didn't.
No.
They didn't have a most disappointing turn of events in a series.
Best boner in a limited series, I think, was.
That's funny.
Yeah, but I don't think he would win that. It's probably the best friend's husband on Mayor of Easttown. But anyway,
I was surprised that there were no nominations for at all. And I don't know if it was like they missed the cutoff or something, but I was surprised that there wasn't anything for Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. I know that Loki is after the cutoff because Loki didn't start till June.
Yeah, but
that's definitely
they weren't.
I think it would have been eligible. It came out like Mayor of Easttown came out after that, I think, right? So
they were. I think they were airing around the same time. You're right.
And the fact that like Hamilton got all of these nominations, even though it's been a stage show, and Sebastian Stan didn't get nominated for that like he would have been. I know there was a push to get him nominated after that scene where it's like you're free, and he's just like crying, and so it's like I don't know why they didn't get anything.
Yeah. Well, it's a good point, and I don't know. Maybe we're not up on what the eligibility is, but you're right. You would think it would be nominated for something, but Loki, we can probably count on some nominations next year, just for Alligator Loki. I would think.
Yeah, Alligator Loki, best alligator of miniseries or television.
But that's a little bit of a dicey competition, figuring out which alligator was the best. In any case,
right.
So people have heard Kate and I talk about WandaVision. Yes, people have heard Kate and I talk about Black Widow. But what they haven't heard is reactions from both Jeff and Eric. And Jeff, I want to ask you first because you saw this film as the way that, again, to invoke the name of him, the way that Odin intended. You saw it in a movie theater. But tell us just overall thoughts, and then Eric will ask you the same.
Yeah, I wasn't like cool kids and got to see it early. I had to see it with the normies and everything. No, I'm just kidding. I really enjoyed it. It was everything I wanted it to be. We gave Natasha a good send off. We got to see more about her past and everything. With that said, it was still, for me, it seemed like it was still more Yelena's intro than Natasha's outro. It was, I don't know. Florence stole the show for me, and for good or bad, I love Florence, but she stole the show, and it wasn't her movie. So, I mean, I have mixed feelings about that. But I'm excited for the future.
Yeah, and that was one of the things that Kate and I were talking about in our previous episode is the simple fact that I think that the greatest heist of the MCU is how Florence Pugh stole this movie from Scarlett Johansson. Just right out from under her. Just took it from her. But I'm not trying to soft sell what Scarlett Johansson did. It's I think she was great. It was a nice reminder of the character that we've already said goodbye to, but it's a little like, oh, look, you found this you find this old note that they wrote, and you can kind of sit down and remind it, and then it's like, but now we're gonna just replace her. There'll be another Widow in the next movie.
I do.
But go ahead, Jeff.
I was gonna say, I do love all the parts where they were actually like pulling back from the first Avengers with Loki, that interaction between Scarlett Johansson and Loki. And I loved like just some of the nods back to her backstory, because we didn't get everything that we should have gotten. And just to see what Loki was actually talking about when he first meet Natasha.
Yeah.
And then kind of seeing why she is like, what the Red Room was about, why he even brought up that girl's name, because we didn't even know who she was at the time. So it was just really cool to see, and to see more sides of Natasha, because like we know she has like a hard edge and there's a background, but like, how did she get that? So it was really cool to see.
Yeah, no, I think that it was some nice additional character development on Natasha. So, Eric, you got to see, and the difference between you and the rest of us is now, if you want to start watching it right now while we're sitting here, you could put Black Widow on again, because you're basically getting let through the velvet ropes by Steve Rebell into Studio 54. You have Disney Plus premiere access to, and there's the pigs, and so you see, he's got the movie right now. And by the way, I if that like half a second where you showed it to the screen gets this YouTube video taken down, I'm going to shave that David Harbour beard off of you. But you did get to take in the movie in the comfort of your own home. And I want to know what that experience was like, because obviously we've seen, there have been first run movies that have gone to streaming over the last year and a half. But how was the experience for you watching it on Disney Plus?
Well, I do recommend all of you should have the experience of watching it. I didn't watch it in the comfort of my home. I watched it in the comfort of my mother-in-law's home with her best friend. So if you can watch this movie with two women, one Italian, one Jewish, both over 70, I think that's the way it was meant to be watched, where you pause it every 5 minutes to answer the most rudimentary questions, such as what is she wearing? And is that her real hair color? All important stuff, I think, really relevant to the plot. It took 7 hours to watch it the first time. I did watch it again on my own. It was a very different experience without the sound of Nana's voice in my ear. It actually works well on the small screen, because interestingly enough, at the heart of it is kind of like this twisted family drama, which was a nice surprise. Like when I watched it a second time, one of the scenes I thought was really great was when it was just the four of them around the dinner table in costume, three of them in costume. And there was something about that scene that spoke to what made this movie work for me. Is this was a surprisingly emotional entry into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like,
oh yeah,
I mean, her crying at the end, over Taskmaster and saying I'm sorry. I'm like, you're not going to see that twice. Like, no one was crying when Yellow Jacket turned into nothing, and I think it was earned. I was really impressed that they knew in order for this thing to work, they had to go somewhere a little bit different. And they've done spy movies before. I mean, Winter Soldier is still, I think, my favorite Marvel's MCU film. But I found the emotional stakes of this one pretty rich. And I agree. I mean, Florence Pugh, who I loved in Fighting with My Family. If you haven't seen that, I'd recommend it. The one based on Paige from the WWE.
Great movie.
He is a real star, and
I need to watch that.
Oh,
it's a great one.
And she's the real deal. I mean, it was hard not to let her steal the film. And to her credit, I don't think Scarlett Johansson tried to stop that. I think she really was very generous in some ways as a performer and shared the wealth.
And I think it's easier to do that when Florence's character as the little sister was making fun of how Black Widow was portrayed previously, and making fun of it, especially like the Joss Whedon portrayal and how she literally entered the Marvel universe. Like, she's famous for that pose, and the first major scene that they have relaxed is them in that gas station talking about them fighting superheroes, by the way, in public.
Yeah.
So it's not
nobody
nobody cares.
They were in Budapest. So,
so they're in a thing and making fun. So it's I think Scarlett Johansson was allowing a little bit of not allowing, but just she's been very vocal about how she hasn't liked that portrayal. And so it's nice that a younger woman who is going to kind of take her mantle is going to be like, this is what you guys did and this is where it's going. Like, it's
Right,
like
and when
not just Black Widow as Scarlett Johansson, it's this is what all Black Widows are. There are multiple of them, and this one's just going to take it again.
And when Yelena jumps down from the ceiling and tries it, I thought that was great because she's
funny.
like, just the realization
Gross.
that like, yeah, this just doesn't work. By the way, Kame Egan can relate to Eric. Eric, that was exactly what it was like when I was watching it with my husband. He kept giving all kinds of commentary and was asking questions. So right there, those two accounts are actually something that I hadn't thought about seeing it at home versus seeing it in the movie. Is people are much more comfortable just yapping and providing their own commentary. I would say that there's a lot of the sort of the family drama that I think works on the small screen, but and we talked about how in the credits there is listed an entire descent unit because of all the choreography and special effects that went into the collapse of the Red Room and all of that. I think that sure, watching it on your TV screen, it probably looked all right, but that, to me, that was the best stuff for the big screen. And the second time that I saw it, I did see it in IMAX, so that I think was some of the best stuff. But yeah, I can see how a lot of it is going to work in that way. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was saying I totally agree. I haven't had the pleasure of seeing it in IMAX yet, but I watched it with my parents in a regular theater, and even in that experience, I was like, okay, this is totally different than any movie I've watched in the last year and a half, because it's either I'm going up to get popcorn, I'm going to use the restroom, someone's talking. Yeah. There are so many different experiences that you're missing, so many jokes that you're missing that you just like want to experience. And then, like, to your point, when the Red Room was falling, the first thing I thought about is these graphics are better than anything we've seen on Disney Plus so far. No offense to them, right, but like there is a step up when it comes to movies and TV. Maybe it's visually, but it just looked like it was. And I didn't know if it was visually or money, but that's how I experienced it.
No, it's a great point. And I think that, what they spent on that sequence is more than they spent on 5 episodes of Loki and 6 episodes of Loki. And I think Loki has looked great. I'm not.
You also think that the extra year of time?
I wonder.
Do you think they still worked on it?
Yeah, well, they redid the score because it was supposed to come out in May of 2020. Yeah, and in that time they did redo the score. So yeah, you're wondering. I mean, I don't think that they shot anything new during the pandemic, but I wonder. Yeah, did they tweak any visual effects? And that
post credit
sort of stuff
was during that, right? The post credit was during the pandemic.
I'm not quite sure. By the way, speaking of which, Cammy also says the Julia Child, Louis Dreyfus, Anderson end credit scene was great. I can't wait to see what her character arc is. And also somebody else Daniel brought it up. I wonder what the movie would have if it had come out in 2016. When it was supposed to be set after Civil War. What would the end credit scene have been? Probably something with Thanos. I mean, I think that was where everything was still heading, especially at that point. But I think that I think it works really well, that end credit scene, because it's this nice sort of tender moment for Yelena. She got the dog nicely named Fanny. Nice callback to the earlier Alias, and. It could have just ended on there, but instead, Elaine has to, blow her nose. And this idea that she wants her to take out Hawkeye, but, I mean, Natasha talks enough about Clint Barton that she's going to know who it is.
But she doesn't in this movie. I mean,
but yes, she does, because when they're in Budapest, she says, "Me and Clint stayed up here for a couple days."
Yeah,
right.
So like she knows something of it. So like that's where my questions were too.
But in terms of like their personal relationship and like what Clint meant to her, like
no, she might not know all that. That's true.
Yeah, and it's like even if like there was like a friendship between the two of them, he still might be in her mind responsible for her dying because the only person that came back from Vormir was Clint. So
Yeah, and what do we
also thank you, Cammy Egan, for helping a girl out. That was nice.
Yeah. She also gave you some advice. Don't slouch. You'll get that humpy back, which refers to the.
I was just getting into it.
Dinner scene. Yeah, exactly.
Not to be confused with the Humpty Hump.
Yeah, no. Because nobody on this show is getting busy in the Burger King bathroom. I have to draw the line somewhere, and I think that's where it is. Just not on camera. In your private time, you can get busy in a Hardee's bathroom. That's fine. But what do we think? Do we figure that that's going to be at least part of the Hawkeye series? I mean, the impression of the Hawkeye series was that it's the Kate Bishop story and that Jeremy Renner's in it, but maybe it's not his series. But then sort of getting this, are we all now thinking like, oh, this is probably going to be a big focus on it? What do you think, Eric?
Well, I mean, it definitely is leaning towards, well, we have a show called Hawkeye. We just saw a picture of Hawkeye. I mean, the simple math of it is like, well, it seems like they'll put her over there. And that feels like a smart way to intersect the movies with the TV shows too. Because we've talked about this before, right? It's like, are you going to introduce the big baddies here? You know, will Kang appear, you know, tonight at midnight? We'll see, you know. And I think this was a smart way of doing it. But I was curious, actually, Jeff, you saw this in Indiana, right? Mm-hmm. So what was the response to Julia Louis-Child, Dreyfus, Hoffman making fun of the Midwest, or is it just because it was making fun of Ohio and the Big Ten hatred is like that's fine with us?
All I'm saying is I love everything about the Ohio State University, but Midwest, I don't need to come back. I'm good. Like I'm allergic to it as well. If y'all saw me sniffling, like if you see me mute, it's because I'm in the Midwest. That's why the shield's not behind me. I am allergic as well, so I don't blame her. But I did have a point. She never said her name in this, so like, would people have known who she is if this was in the right timeline? You know what I'm saying? Well, like if this was before we saw.
Yelena said her name.
Yeah, she says, yeah, Valentina. But if this movie had come out like it was supposed to before Falcon and Winter Soldier, there might, you know, they could have shot something that they've since cut out where they actually, you know, go through her whole name and then the whole thing, you know. But now the way that it worked out is that we already know her. So this wasn't the introduction to her. So it's an interesting question as to whether or not there might have been more to the scene, and probably, you know, nothing substantial, just more of like this would be the first time that we've seen her, you know. And, you know, Dominica Saxon points out a lot of excitement for the Hawkeye show now. And William Walton points out that the Hawkeye show is going to be him fighting Yelena. I'm sure that's an episode in there. And then at some point they're going to have to work together. And I don't know. And who knows where Kate Bishop comes from? Maybe Kate Bishop got away from the Red Room. You know, I mean, we don't know how they could really interact. Right. And then there's just Dominica Saxon theorizing that Yelena could be the top boss at the end or something. Well, you know, there's a lot of questions about just what it is that Valentine is up to. And, you know, there's specific teams that people think she's putting together, but whatever it'll be called, clearly she's putting together some people with less than noble intentions. I mean, you've got John Walker, you've got Yelena, who is, you know, for hire, clearly, because she's working for Valentina already. So
and asking for a raise, which is a good girl.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, well, I think that's also.
I think Cammy's got it right. I was just about to say, I think we're going to see a Dark Avengers series. Because it was also like that was one of the like little like Easter eggs in Falcon Winter Soldier. Was related to Dark Avengers as they were entering Zemo. So I'm curious to see if Zemo's going to come back. I don't know if he will, but like heading to Zemo's cell in Falcon Winter Soldier, the passcode to get in to his cell was the Dark Avengers comic book.
Nice.
Number.
Well, there's and then also, by the way, that's probably also Florence Pugh speaking directly to Kevin Feige that, you know what you paid me for this movie? Yeah, I'm going to get a lot more now. You know, it's get ready for some of that Pugh cash. So I think it'll be, you know, be interesting. And I think that not to take away from the movie, but that ending just was exciting in like, oh yeah, this story that was set 5-6 years earlier than where we are in the continuity, it brought us right into the here and now of like, yeah, where's this going to go next? And personally, I can't wait to see what they do with it. I think it'll be great. So let's get back to the movie itself, though. Because the end credits came up in the chat, I wanted to address it in that moment. Just sort of getting the MCU back was very exciting. Kate and I talked about just sort of hearing the MCU fanfare, the Marvel Studios little thing that right at the beginning, and having it not be on Disney Plus. Sorry, Eric, I know it's on Disney Plus for you, but hearing it, from the big speakers, you're like, oh yeah, that's what it's all about, and it was just very exciting. And I think that the movie did a great job of telling a story, and it's my criticism for years since we've known about the movie, and what I said last week is just that they should have made the movie when it was set. But once you get past that, I think it still told a great story, and we're talking about how great Florence is in it, but it's not like Scarlett Johansson didn't really get to expand the character a little bit. What were some of the character moments for Natasha in particular, Jeff, that jumped out at you?
I kind of mentioned it earlier. For me, was when everything came full circle with the Loki interaction in Avengers, and then us finding out that she ended up killing the daughter of I can't think of his name, but
Dracov's daughter, yeah,
Dracov's daughter, and just seeing the things that she did, like the things that she went through to kill Dracov, or to try to kill Dracov, and like seeing all those were some of my favorites. And I love the fact that she couldn't even, or she kind of let him break her nose, but he couldn't even do it. And it was another callback to the same interaction with Loki. He was like, "Thank you for your compliance," or something along those
cooperation.
Thank you for your cooperation. I was like, I love those moments where she's like a callback, but also doing something really cool. So like breaking her nose or something, like, you can't even do it. Let me just do this real quick, and then beat you up. Yeah. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. No, I agree. And Eric, I was impressed by Natasha's encyclopedic knowledge of James Bond films. I thought that that was a nice character moment. What were some of the things that stood out for you, Eric, though? Just specifically Natasha's character. We know her very well at this point. We were with her when she died. But just to sort of expand our understanding of her in this movie.
Well, yeah, I'll second Jeff's mention of her breaking her own nose. And it actually, what you're saying too about kind of reminds you of other films. One of, I thought, her better moments in any of the previous MCUs was, I want to say it was the first Avengers, when she looks like she's tied up and she's like, and she takes a phone call.
It was the first Avengers movie.
That's Avengers parentheses 2011. Yes.
Right. And that moment's like, oh, all right, fine. I'll be right there. And so that idea of like, I kind of forgot about that moment until I'm like watching that, the little twist that her and, her mom had about, changing faces and everything and breaking her own nose. And it goes back to what's really interesting about her is that she doesn't have the superpowers. I love the reference of, you think, was it Space God needs an Advil?
Yes.
That was nice. Yeah.
And it's a reminder, like, she is, always human. She is like the Die Hard, one of the best action movies. I always feel like when you watch that first one, you just think at some point John McClane is just not going to make it, no matter how many times you see it. And she is really good at playing that, at always playing like a touch of human, even when she's like, sure, you could fly up there. Yeah, I got this. And then she like jumps on, a scooter, and all of a sudden she's at the top of Avengers Tower. Like, that's always been her skill, is she has found a way to play with the quote unquote big boys. And you never think, well, what's she doing there? Like, she always is able to keep up. And really those last moments to me, I thought were pretty special, when she was like, I have to get my other family back together. And really that great joke that in essence, Ross and everyone shows up, but she doesn't get captured.
Yeah,
So
yeah, no, I think
camera.
they take her, but that's why it's just like 2
She's
weeks
it.
later, like, yeah, of course she gets away. You
Right.
know, it's almost like, yeah, like the movie's 2 hours and 15 minutes. You don't need to see that. You know how it happens, basically.
Right.
And by the way,
Right.
Daniel Drew was thinking of the exact same scene you were, the scene in Avengers where Natasha's working on the Russian mobster, and it's you do get that kind of great consistency with her all the way throughout. You know, this isn't sort of like a revisionist prequel in any way. You feel like this is all consistent with the character that we know and we got to, you know, care so much about overall that time. Now, Kate, I know you and I spoke about it last week, but have you had a chance to see it a second time, or did work keep you from that?
I have not. I spent a few days on another shoot, so I was not able to see it again. But
because Kate's actually in show business as opposed to some of the rest of us. So yeah, so you were busy. It's okay.
Sorry.
No, but it's all right because but you've obviously you can still think about what you've seen and what are just again, we talked about it last time, but what were some of the real standout moments for Natasha for you in particular?
For me, what's amazing is and it was highlighted by that first Avengers moment, and it's like are you kidding me? I'm working. Like you think that she's tied up, she's going to get, you know, her ass kicked, you know, you think that she's in the wrong because the guy's giving her all of this information. Because there's this idea of like, you know, I have a woman, I'm going to tell the woman all my plans. And she can't do anything. And so Natasha's also really good at working the room in terms of being like, you know, you've beaten me. And when somebody feels like they're beaten, they feel like they can like extrapolate, you know, this is why you're, you know, shit out of luck. And so for me, it was like watching her get the shit kicked out of her. Sorry. But she's looking for how to get into the big computer. Like she's watching the ring go through the pad and she's like seeing like what she needs to see. And she's like basically like biding her time. She's wanting the nose to be broken, but she's biding her time when you think that she can't defeat this guy because she can't get at him because of the pheromone thing. And it's funny that they use like very like a very sexual thing in term to like prevent like these women from attacking this man. And so like it's basically like, you think my sex is weak, I'm going to show you that it's not. But I'm going to do it by thinking like that like by playing into this idea that you think you're better than me. You think you're stronger, you think you're smarter, you think, you know, you've got, you know, a hand over me when you don't. But playing into that is how she kind of it has that element of surprise, which I really love.
Right, and I think that look, we know Scarlett Johansson is a good actress, but I have to say that I'm impressed that Natasha Romanoff is fucking Meryl Streep, because pretending that she didn't understand why she couldn't shoot him, you know, just sort of going through all of that, and it's like it's very believable. And yes, of course, that's done for us, the audience, but still, she has to convince him that she's like, why isn't it working? That I'm trying to kill you, even though it's like, yeah, I know I can't kill you, but don't worry, I'm going to kill you. So I thought that you know, those moments, but you're absolutely right, Kate. Just how well she sells the fact of like, oh boy, this really is the end for me, isn't it? Well, you know, you might as well tell me your plan, because if I'm going to work for you, obviously I'm going to need to know how it all works. And, you know, and even no matter what's going on, she still manages to slip the ring off of him. You know, I mean, it's just like, you know, it just more than anything else, she's still great at everything that she does. Raiwan in the chat saying, I liked the movie. I still wish we had it a year ago. Yeah, I mean, talking about the sense of when it should have been filmed, but yeah, I mean, it was done a year ago, but I think that not putting it in theaters a year ago made sense, and not doing you know, I was half right. I never imagined that they would do an exclusive Disney Plus Premier Access release. This hybrid release, it seems to be what made sense. And, you know, I mean, between the two releases, I think it made 60 million on Disney Plus, which is, I believe, three people bought it, because it is, Eric, it is $20 million to buy on Disney Plus, right?
Well, that's why I bought it at my mother-in-law's house,
So she had to pay for it. But yeah, and I think the total international was 215 total.
Yeah.
But I think it squeaked in just under 90 million domestic box office. And that is honestly, that's 2 years ago they would have been like, oh, I guess we have to cancel the MCU. We only made $90 million opening weekend. But for it to be this year, this summer, I think everybody's very excited with the reaction to it. And I want to talk a little bit about some of the public reaction in terms of some of the negatives or concerns. But I wanted to know, I'll ask you first, Jeff, was there anything about the movie other than, oh, we should have gotten it sooner or anything like that? But in terms of the movie itself, was there anything where you felt like, oh, this really didn't work for me, this was disappointing? Or was it just minor stuff really that you feel like didn't detract from the movie in any way?
Yeah, I didn't have any big overarching issues with this film. I really enjoyed it. I thought the character development was cool. I thought they had some great laughs and way more seriousness than I assumed. I honestly stopped watching the trailers and all the snippets because I was like, I've seen the whole movie at this point. It's been 2 years of trailers. I don't want to see any. So when I got there, I was kind of happily surprised that there was more depth to the characters. There was more depth to the movie. And yeah, there was not that I can think of, overarching issues I had.
What about you, Eric? Did anything stand out for you? Well, just in general, did anything? I know there's one. You had one question.
I'll do that. I don't think I'll do that second.
Okay, so talk about So get to your question second. But what stood out for you that maybe had you scratching your head, or maybe you had to just explain it a little bit more to Nana than you wanted to?
Oh no, my microphone fell. My incredibly large microphone. I thought the end was maybe a little too reminiscent for me of Winter Soldier in a lot of ways. Like the helicarrier going to the ground and
trying to get Taskmaster, like what Taskmaster is to Winter Soldier is, Natasha is to Steve Rogers. Okay, I get that. Yeah,
and it worked. And by the way, I will go see this on a big screen, the way it should be seen, of course, on IMAX with Nana, with Meryl Berliner.
Yes, I want to come with you. I want to meet your Nana.
I'm gonna fly her out from Rhode Island.
Can she be on the next podcast?
Well, wait, yeah, Christian, didn't you interview your mom recently for one?
I did. My mom was on an episode of the Black Cast, and
that's so funny.
Yeah,
used every nasty word that George Carlin always went down the list of. That was like your mom's first sentence, I understand.
My mom has actually pointed out, it's in my baby book. Baby's first word, she had to sort of like add an extra line because my first word was shit, piss, fuck, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits. So that actually, which is, look, I have kids, you have kids. It's nothing that is sweeter than just hearing the music that children can make,
Oh, and I'm sure from a young Christian's mouth, it was adorable.
Kind of, yeah.
With the one tooth. So I thought the end maybe a little too reminiscent, though done well. I no qualms about the staging of it.
And what you're saying is that it was so derivative, you thought that they were going to be trying to blow up the Death Star at one point, just because it felt so familiar?
A little, right, in the Mad Magazine. I know you know this reference, Christian. The Mad Magazine version of Return of the Jedi, where literally Admiral Akbar turns to the audience, I'm like, all right, guys, how do we blow up the Death Star? And all the kids already know.
Yeah, the same way you did last time. Yeah.
Right.
And it's funny because I did think about that after the fact, but in the moment, it didn't so much feel like the helicarrier. But I'm sure that somewhere somebody was like, oh, there's all this stuff we should have done when the helicarrier came crashing down, So they're like, yeah, we'll find a way to do it.
What's that with like 10 more years of
it's a total tangent, but it's like how Kevin Smith he wrote a script for a Superman movie, and the executive said, what you really need is a big giant robot spider in it. And he's like, well, that sounds crazy. The movie ended up not getting made. That executive produced Wild Wild West, which had what do Kevin Kline and Will Smith go up against? A giant robot spider. So people sometimes they have something that they need to get into a movie. Oh, and it'll get there. So yeah, I mean, imagine as much as people love Falcon and Winter Soldier, imagine if there were like 8 more minutes of fights happening on the helicarrier as it fell down. But but anyway, so that I can see that as a valid point. It's similar, and yes, definitely requires suspension of disbelief that all that can happen while you're falling. But it still looked really cool.
It looked fucking dope.
Yeah.
And like, but there's also this idea. I want to hear that idea, but there's also considering in Captain America Winter Soldier that it was Natasha kind of being like oh, I think you're in the wrong business to have a friend. And like Steve was her like rock in that movie. And it was like, I thought I was going straight. I guess I wasn't, I didn't know whose lies I was telling. And like, he's the kind of like moral compass in that movie for her. And then he went through that journey with Bucky. And so for her to go through that journey with Taskmaster in a very similar way, just to get to like, is he gone? Is it over? And to kind of like, there's been a lot of mind control in the MCU. And so it was nice to have Natasha kind of like grow from that moment into whatever, into becoming in a way her version of the Captain America character. And her way of like like Steve is not the one who got the Avengers back together. It was her that did it. Like you expected, like Steve broke everyone out of the raft, but it was like she was the one that was just like no, we got it, we can do it together. Like she was the one that kept the ship running.
We got to get the band back together. What were we gonna say, Jeff?
Oh no, it's all good.
Okay.
No,
that's
Jeff.
Good. Come on, Jeff.
To be honest, I forgot about it, and that's why I said it's all good. Because I said it and like, all good. I'll remember in like 2 seconds.
And so Eric texted both Jeff and I after he saw it, and you had a question, you had a concern, and I did slap you down with a fairly simple answer. But go ahead and raise your point.
No, and I'm not crying defeat on this one, MF. I thought that first fight scene between our lovely sisters, it doesn't quite, and I watched it again because I have that power now. It doesn't quite.
I'm coming over your house, and I'm going to watch it again today. Anyway,
I'm
sorry.
seeing it tomorrow, so I'm now really curious.
Well, just that first fight scene between the two of them, that even watching it second time, and I read your notes and I consider them because I do respect you to an extent. And yet I still don't buy it. Yeah, yes, I don't have a sibling that I used to beat up like you. Wow. I never.
Let me ask you a simple question. Do you have siblings, and are they older?
Okay. Mistakes have been made. So I do. I see. That's the thing. I don't. And I know that because
I had an older brother who was twice my size, and so anecdote I've told before. The reason why I didn't get to see Return of the Jedi on opening night is that my brother dislocated my shoulder because he thought it would be fun to flip me over. He didn't try to hurt me. He was trying to flip me over and have me do somersaults. So I was at an urgent care in Long Beach Island, New Jersey, instead of seeing the movie that I wanted to. I saw it 3 days later. I still saw it before everybody in my class. And, the no spoiler sensitivity didn't exist then because I'm like, Princess Leia's his sister. Yeah, totally his sister. Yeah, so that's great. But anyway, so that was my point, is that siblings will definitely, some siblings, they're like, oh, let's play football in the backyard. These two trained killers, they play rough, and that is, of course, how they said hello. And Kate, I definitely see. I just wanted to finish my thought. No, please. I know. And Kate has limited time. So I do want to get your thought in. So I just wanted to say that, it's kind of like, that's how they say hi, but yes, neither of them trusted each other. They didn't know if they could. Now, Kate, what were you going to say?
I was going to say a similar thing, but there's also something about having two women who know each other and are family fighting each other. And there's almost like, I think the end of that scene, I kind of agree with Eric that it felt a little bit like, let's get these two women to fight to get it out of the way. Mm-hmm. But there's something about like can I beat you? Like my sister's an avenger. My sister is an avenger after being a widow, one of the best widows that ever existed. And can I really beat you? And then the older sister going like, wait a minute, like, and so at the end of that scene when they're like, it's a draw, like truce, it was less about like, coming together and like, I trust you now versus like, all right, like you're good.
And by the way, for all of the physical,
I'm not sure it was set up though.
Right. Eric. No, it might not have been. All the bumps and bruises that are provided in that sequence for Yelena, none of them hurt her as much as Natasha saying you weren't my real sister. Like, boy, is that like a real, like, that's the most real moment maybe in the whole movie where it's like, oh, why do you do that? Like, why do you have to, why do you have to say that? Why do you have to, basically, why do you have to be so mean? Dominica Saxon in the chat. I have an older brother and we both studied martial arts. So a few of our disagreements got a little ... active. Yeah. I mean, just look up Cyclops and Havoc fights. It's that's just how, only the Wonder Twins got along. I mean, I think that, but I do understand your point, but again, it just goes back to like, but it was a pretty good sequence. But you don't feel like we've convinced you at all.
No. I'm sorry, but I'm going to quote another wise man who is Christian Blatt from 5 days ago. We will discuss Tuesday, but it made perfect sense to Kate and I.
It did. We talked about it. It made sense to us when we did the show. That was me telling you should have watched the episode that you weren't on. That was really what I was getting at there. I'm sure Jeff did, and Jeff, just go with me. I'm sure Jeff watched it.
Exactly. I read through the lines and knew exactly what you meant.
Yeah, and I'm sure that Michael hasn't seen Black Widow, but I'm sure he watched our episode about it. So
I have to get my wig ready. I'm so
apparently. Oh yeah.
Do it.
Oh, that's right. Wait, is he going to be here?
So Michael will not be joining us tomorrow, mostly because he hasn't watched Loki yet. But when he returns,
all the more reason.
Yeah, all the more reason we got to do. But for me, there's also, I think this is the only time in this movie about women that there is a female competition, like status, like, for lack of a better term. And I'm very sorry, ladies, big dick competition. Like, this is the only time they get one because the rest of it is about like, I think one of my favorite parts of the movie, to be quite honest with you, and it's a great moment for not only Natasha, but for Yelena and for women as a whole, is when they're describing very, very matter-of-factly not having a uterus anymore to their dad in the helicopter. And they're like, because this is what happens. And and girls talk about stuff that happens with their bodies with such like ease because, it's their own body, but it's the like, I don't want to hear it aspect of it. And it's like, well, you gotta like, it's time to listen now.
And just Alexi's reaction to it being the way that, let's just say a lot of men, I won't even generalize most men, but if a woman mentions that she's having her period, most
like men with a capital M.
Just that word makes most of us react like Alexi, like, whoa, come on, what is this?
Yeah.
But go ahead, Jeff.
Another part to that is that like he, in a sense, kind of not forced them into it, but like at least brought them back and didn't care. So that's another like side thing because like Yelena thinks of him as a father. So your father put you through that. Your father let this thing happen to you. So that was another side of like, you're going to listen to it and I don't care because I really don't even want you on the plane.
Yeah, because you weren't a good father. You didn't love us. You turned us over to this monster. And even if in the moment you thought it was a good idea, you've had all this time in jail to realize that it was a bad decision, but instead you're asking if Captain America ever talked about you, which also,
Dynamo.
I was going to say shout out to Crimson Dynamo. I thought that was nice that we got that. And of course, just the look on his face, he's like, not Red Guardian. Like he like has to. Kate, I know you only have a few more minutes with us today, and I know Eric has to teach at the top of the hour, but I wanted to make sure that if there's anything that you feel like you didn't get to last week or we haven't gotten to yet, any sort of observations as you've thought about it, anything that stands out, I wanted to give you a moment while we still have a few, if there's anything in particular.
I thought it was interesting how the I think what was interesting about Natasha as a character, and yes, like I talked about last week a little bit, that like I thought the movie was mistitled. But what was interesting is that like no matter what, in Natasha's time in the MCU, we've always seen her be very calculated. Whether it's, pretending that she's tied to a chair and can't get out in order to like, get some information and or be at the bottom rung of something. We see her be very, very calculated. Even choosing to help Captain America escape in Civil War was a very calculated choice, and she knew the kind of consequences of her choice, and she sticks by her guns anyway. So the two split off moments of Red Guardian talking to Yelena being the more emotional aspect of this family, where it's like, I don't, this really meant a lot to me, and this kind of spitfire of a guy, being the emotional end of it, being the emotional end of the spectrum, and they kind of come together with that song, American Pie. And then the two kind of the mother, played by Rachel Weisz, and Natasha kind of coming together in a calculated, like, we gotta understand each other type of scene, and then coming up with a way to get out of it.
Yeah,
Seeing the
working
split
together. Yeah, agreed.
But there's always like, I know that parents don't have favorites. Parents have favorites, but like there's like that one child that is like that reminds them of them, aspect of it, which is why it's like, don't slouch, and like the mother's always correcting the emotional one. It's like, Mom, I'm gonna do what I want, and it's like the having them split into those two pairs of the emotional pair and the very calculated pair. It's like you could kind of almost see where Natasha got some of her, like, planning ability and her way of like working through problems. And it was her mom, yes, she was the older sister, who encouraged her to step up and fly the plane in the beginning of the movie. So it was like, I'm going to guide you through it, just stay calm. And it was the calmness of her mom that like allowed her to kind of finish the mission, as it were. So it was like interesting to see where the two sisters landed on, I think we're going to see a very, emotionally driven Yelena, in future movies and in Avengers 5. Because of like, where she gets her, like where she comes from, I guess. So it was nice to see where these characters came from, and rethinking about that scene where they kind of, the parents and the kids split off, was interesting.
Well, I was just going to jump in. When I watched it again second time, because I can do that. Yeah, you might have seen it 2 weeks ago. I can watch it infinite number of times right now. So suck on that. When they hug Dad, Red Guardian, right? And Yelena holds him a little longer. That was actually something I noticed that second time, even though she makes fun of him, like, oh, you smell.
Yeah.
Like, but the truth is, like, she was younger. It's like when you have a trauma, and it changes depending on age. Like my wife's parents were divorced, and so it totally affected. She was 16, one was 12, the other was 10. So in essence, like depending your age, it completely changes how you deal with it. And so how little she was versus Scarlett Johansson. So
well, and to be fair, just to interject, that Natasha knew it was fake, but Yelena didn't. She thought this was a real family. And I think she was too little to understand that, I love that they have a day where they shot Christmas and Easter, and I forget what, they shot all the holidays on the same afternoon,
right?
And knowing that the presents were fake. But Yelena was so small. I mean, even at the beginning of the movie. So yeah, I think she still had this little girl attachment to Alexei, even though they all know that he's, kind of a douche. He has an awesome beard. And I do love that he was able to squeeze into that Red Guardian suit. I didn't really know for sure
he lost weight for what's funny, he lost weight for this role, by the way.
David Harbour did?
Yeah, apparently, like, he's usually doughier than this, but I mean, he looked kind of big, but I guess a couple times I looked at him, I guess he is a little skinnier than he is.
Well, it's also they put a fat suit on him, definitely, to kind of make him a little bit more pudgy, but he still had to be able to like do all of the running,
right,
and like all of the fighting. True. So it's like you still have to have the body to do all that stuff, and then like costumes can help with the rest. Especially like he did not get dressed on screen. And if it, it was
that's a great point.
When it came out, it was like, if it was a body double, but it was like, it still fits. But it was like, having worked in the costume department of those shows, it's like everything is very pointed.
Yeah. Right. Well, Kate, my understanding is that you have to say goodbye to us.
I know.
For today.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. I just wanted to make sure. But for those of you who are watching Marvel Movie Talk right now, you will see us all again tomorrow at our normal spot, Wednesday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, as we talk about the series finale of Loki. So Kate, we will see you then, and we look forward to your Loki theories. You're going to have a video that you post tonight, right?
I know. I keep saying on Marvel Movie Talk I'm going to make a video, and then I never do. But I have a little. I want to explore a fan theory about Loki, and I'm going to see if I'm right. So feel free to come over to my TikTok and my Instagram, and I'll talk about it tomorrow, and we'll see if I'm right.
All right. Thank you, Kate. Always great to have you with us. And was that MODOK again? Was he coming over or?
No, I was going to show my proof of my love as a father. Newberry Comics in Boston. My son said, I need Baba Frick. And thus he got an exceptionally large, heavy, almost put my suitcase over the weight limit to fly back to LA, Baba Frick. So, love can be measured.
No, it's true. One of the things, when Kate and I did our first reaction, we recorded it before we did some of the reactions that started to filter in. And we did talk about, we spent a lot of time talking about Stephen Dorff saying that he was embarrassed for Scarlett Johansson, which of course is funny because, Stephen Dorff has so much to be embarrassed about in his own life. So he, people who can't act in glass houses should not act throwing stones because it won't be believable when there are no cracks in the glass house. But there has been a reaction to the reveal of Taskmaster as Dreykov's daughter. And I think that I probably should have brought this up while we still had a woman with us. But, some of the concern is that it's like, oh, it was a girl inside. And that's some of the reaction. Some of it is a little bit of retcon. And look, I understand the negative reactions when you get them because the reveal of Mandarin in Iron Man 3 literally pissed me off. I didn't want it to. As much as I was like, this is cool that Gandhi's in this movie, but this not being really Mandarin was like, why did they do that? Why did they burn that character? Although allegedly we might see the real Mandarin in Shang-Chi. So, and the idea that the retcon would be upsetting for a character whose real name as Taskmaster, the guy behind Taskmaster, his name is Tony Masters. I mean, you want to talk about phoning in somebody's secret identity? Oh, the guy whose last name is Masters. You think he might be anybody? Nah, he's probably Kang. He's probably Kang. But I'm just sort of wondering, what you guys think. I don't know how much you've seen of that kind of reaction as it's gone. I'll ask you first, Eric, if you've seen sort of some of the negative reaction to the reveal of Taskmaster. I mean, personally, I felt like it's a great emotional arc. It's very rewarding for Natasha's story. Yes, they fudged with what the character is. I don't know. Maybe people wanted Bucky to be behind the mask or something. I don't really know what they wanted. But what do you think, Eric, about just the reaction?
Yeah. It's always tricky, right? Because if you play things out exactly like how they are in the comic book, you take away surprise, it limits your sort of playing field a bit of what you could do dramatically. And so I actually thought Taskmaster being his own daughter, a moment that did shock both Pam and Meryl when I was watching with them. I thought that it worked for this film. And I remember, was it you who was upset because it looked like it was like a robot with the USB, like a thumb drive, but in fact it was a human. And the moments of her sort of staring down Scarlett Johansson I thought were really interesting, and how she was sort of like doing vectors to figure out like her plan of attack. If anything, I thought this movie maybe where it could have gotten a little sharper is it kind of had a lack of a villain. For like the villainy was very off screen.
It was like you were. It was like more you were fighting against a cause. Yes, Dreykov is a man, but he sort of represented something. And it's not like the Red Skull is also fighting an ideal. You're not actually fighting someone. Kemi Egan has a great point. Taskmaster reveal wasn't a surprise to me because when Natasha said she blew up Dreykov's daughter, it was obvious to me. Sure, I mean that the timing of that story. But Jeff, what do you think as you've kind of heard, people talk about just this idea that the Taskmaster in some way is disappointing because it's not something that maybe they thought it would be. Maybe everybody wanted it to be Mephisto. Is that what it comes down to? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really understand or know who people want it to be because John Masters or whoever you said, Tony Masters doesn't really excite me at all. I felt like this fit the storyline more. I feel like it gave Natasha more character development. It gave her a reason. It gave us more sense of why she is the way she is. And like this can just open the door to using Taskmaster in the future, but have a good background for it. Have a solid, stable reasoning for why she is the way she is going forward. And you don't have to introduce her backstory in some other different movie where you're introducing Taskmaster. Everything's already set up. We know why she is the way she is. We know who she is. And Taskmaster can either go off on her own, or she could be Dark Avengers, or she could be Thunderbolts. Either way, we know who she is because of the story we got, and I appreciate it for who it was, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, and then the idea that she doesn't die at the end, it's like, well, that's a missed opportunity if we don't see her again. Daniel Drew in the chat, I still think we'll get a proper Taskmaster later on. I think it could throw Yelena off when she's an Avenger in the future. She could think it's the same girl again, Dreykov's daughter, or another widow that that she's thrown off. And Daniel Drew asked, was it clear whether she had the mimic skill or if it was the cybernetics? I think it's the cybernetics. I don't think it's some inherent ability. But Eric, what do you think? Do you think one way or the other?
Well, it seemed like she was pretty plugged in. I mean, like, so much of that was, it felt, robotic by nature. So,
Daniel thinks it was the cybernetics, but Daniel's friend says it was her own skill. So, Daniel, tell your friend to join us. Tell your friend to join us in the chat. And I'll slap him down the way I slapped down Eric's theory. No, we'll see what. And Daniel points out that he thinks Masters could find the suit later on. Well, Jeff, I know you also have to go. Do you have any final thoughts on? It seems like you gave a thumbs up to Natasha's final adventure with us.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and kind of going back on what Eric said earlier.
Conor McGregor,
Conor McGregor said earlier. No.
Oh, my foot! Oh, my foot!
Look, he didn't even last one round. I'm glad I didn't pay for that. But
your foot so much, my foot.
No. So going back to what Eric said earlier, is I love how this movie, and I think it started with I forgot what movie it was in, maybe Endgame or something, where we're starting to see the heroes have to deal with real life, with all the repercussions of what they're doing, who's dying and everything. When Tony Stark gets confronted backstage at the beginning of Endgame, and then like seeing this, how there's like a world of widows, how I don't know, it's just world building more in between the saving the world and being in space. What happens in between, what we felt from these Disney Plus shows, I felt like we got a little glimpse of that in this movie as well, because usually we see them saving the world and ending a movie. This one, we saw them saving the world, kind of seeing the family dynamic, seeing them being real, seeing them grow, learn, and then saving the world again. And then that reminded me a lot of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It reminded me a lot more of WandaVision, because we got to see them in their real life atmosphere. So I'm assuming that's going to become a more relevant theme going forward.
And final question for you, Jeff. What did your parents think of the movie?
they enjoyed it as well. They enjoyed it. My dad is more of just an action guy, so he just wanted to go for fun. And then my mom is big into Marvel as well, so she's excited for Florence Pugh and the future of the Widows, because it seems like it's going to be like an organization, or it should be an organization of widows, and what that means for the Avengers or whoever tasked them will be cool to see.
Yeah, what I said last time about Black Widow is that it works because it's basically like, at first I thought it was a James Bond movie that happened to have an Avenger in the lead, and then when they pulled the masks off, I'm like, all right, it's a Mission Impossible movie. But I mean, it's still, it hits all those beats, and it kind of has the same twists and turns. So yeah, I mean, somebody that doesn't really watch MCU movies, this is kind of the easiest one to just kind of come in and watch. You're like, I don't know why. I don't know why William Hurt is going after this girl, but whatever, and you can kind of watch it in that way. Well, Jeff, you also will be back with us tomorrow when we talk about the Loki finale. And in the meantime, how can people keep in touch with you?
Yes, if you guys want to talk to me on any social media, at Jeff Will Jr., and we can continue the conversation there.
All right, Jeff. Well, thanks for making the time, and we will see you tomorrow. And then there were two. Watch this. Watch what I'm going to do for the video watchers. Ah! It's the Wayne's World extreme close-up. And Daniel Drew says, do we think Madam Hydra is the boss collecting these Dark Avengers, or is she collecting for someone else like Osborn or Zemo or something? I'll tell you, I hope it isn't. The power broker. I really don't want it to be Sharon Carter, who's the mastermind behind all of this. But that's just me personally. Have you given it?
A dislike of her is not you personally. That is
that's personal.
Collective.
That's not Michael Shirley overreacting. And by the way, off topic, but we mentioned it, was Dominicus Saxon trainer. Think you could lose this fight? Conor McGregor. Yeah, my left foot. Anyway, and I know Eric has some impressionable young minds to help shape our future entertainers, to make sure that that they understand how good this movie is on the big screen as well. But what I do want to talk to you about is sort of this as our final topic, is what we get with everything. Just the reaction to anything that's part of a franchise. This one being, I mean, there's more MCU movies than there are James Bond movies, and those started in 1962. I think with this one, I think there's more now. But in any case, and just the idea that some of us like it, and that we think it was fun, and that people's reaction needs to be, well, you're wrong. And it's just a reminder. I was speaking with somebody about this yesterday. It's just a reminder that that's kind of what discussion is. That's what, film reviews are. It's a lot of like, no, this is garbage, and this is why you need to and look, somebody could watch this and think it's garbage. I'm not saying that. You could hate this for every reason. I saw somebody that felt like this was a disrespect to Natasha for her. I'm like, okay, that's the way you felt about it. I'm not saying don't feel like that, but it's when it goes that next step, Eric, where it's like, well, here's why you have to think the way I do, and how exactly, I mean, it's just social media did that to film criticism, would you say? Or or can we go far enough back where we blame Siskel and Ebert for turning film criticism into this or that, the thumbs up or thumbs down, which personally I think is brilliant, just coming down to that. Is it good or is it bad? Don't tell me it's 2.5 stars. What does that mean? I mean, some movies only have 2.5 stars. Thank you. But what do you think? Like, how did we get to this sense where, that if you didn't like Black Widow, you need everybody else to hate it?
Right. Or Cop and a Half, by the way, I was going to say before.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
It's never too late to get in a Henry Winkler directed reference starring Burt Reynolds' toupee. So this is such a great question.
Tune in next week where we drop a BL Stryker reference, because we're going to need to talk about Bert's toupee every week. I'm sorry, I interrupted you just for a joke that was just for you, really. But anyway, go ahead.
I think this is my real hair. I mean, I was inspired by the greats. It's true, and this is, I mean, the internet. I mean, okay. A lot of y'all watching, all millions of you watching, might be a wee bit younger than Christian and I, who I think combined are floating around 90 years of age, maybe more. And so this idea of like back in the day, right? Film criticism wasn't just criticism too. It was like, I don't know, when you go to a museum and you have a tour guide who actually really deconstructs what makes the artwork interesting. Which, by the way, I never go on those freaking tours. Even walking through Boston, we had a chance to have a tour guide who was dressed like, I don't know, a Minuteman, and I was like, I'm out. And not Miss, it was Miss Minutes.
Maybe. No, if Miss Minutes was there, making up files that she was searching for, then yeah, you would have gone the whole way. Absolutely.
But I agree. It's like people, they react. Like Twitter, one of the issues with Twitter is it doesn't lend itself to an actual discussion. It's comment. And it's not much about, you said this, I'm hearing you. Like even our little discussion on chat, about that one scene. It was like, okay, I see what you're saying about brothers. I am an only child. I never almost got choked to death by my sibling because I don't have them. And it sounds like I really missed out.
Oh, yeah, believe me, you missed out. Yeah.
I actually got to go to the Return of the Jedi, opening weekend with both my shoulders intact. But the truth is, like, Twitter people are just reactionary. And so it's not much in terms of an actual critical analysis and like a discussion, which is what is fun. I mean, it was the idea of the water cooler, right? That expression, water cooler television, right? At work, people would stand by a water cooler and discuss, did you watch Twin Peaks last night? And it's a discussion. And I think that's the thing. And that's what's fun about this, honestly, is reading the comments. I love reading your comments because you guys are discussing it. You're not just throwing a rock in the water and running away. Like you're actually listening to each other, even when you disagree.
Water cooler conversation didn't consist of what we have online now, which is if you're talking about Twin Peaks, somebody runs up behind the water cooler and just yells, "Her father did it!" and then walks away. And you're like, what the fuck did you do that for?
Right.
Which, sorry for anybody that's decided to binge a 30-year-old show. I figure if you didn't watch Twin Peaks when they did the reboot, then it's okay for me to yell it out to make a point. But yeah, and look, I think that when I don't like a movie, I'm very critical of Star Wars: The Last Jedi, which we don't need to go off on a tangent on. But the people who like it, I've always tried to be like, well, tell me why you like it so much. And I'm like, yeah, I don't feel that. I wish I felt that. The idea that there's a Star Wars movie that I don't love is disappointing. The fact that there's one that I like less than the TV movie, the Ewoks Caravan of Courage, that's even more disappointing. But I
special.
Yeah, I always try to have those conversations. And, when we do movie shows, I like to, shows where we're specifically talking about a movie, I like to talk to somebody that didn't like it as long as they can explain why, because there's just like, it just wasn't what I wanted it to be. I'm like, okay, I mean, that's a reason, but that's not really a conversation. And I don't know. I think that Dominicus Saxon sums it up best. I stopped listening to critics when they gave The Cutting Edge only 2 stars. And, what I remember about The Cutting Edge was the tagline, I believe this was on the one sheet on the movie poster, was that it's a love skate relationship. And it really was. And what I do remember is a very young David Spade at the point talking about the fact that that's how they were selling that movie. And he asked his friends, please don't let me ever fall into a love skate relationship. And for all the relationships he's had, I don't think he's ever fallen into a love skate relationship.
Well, I by the way, I worked on the documentary, The Cutting Edge, which is about editing. And
that is not the same film.
No, but the thing is, I knew that there was this other movie, and I kept that to myself because I was kind of thinking, well, maybe people will accidentally rent this. And then only about 45 minutes in, they're like, there's a severe lack of ice skating in this movie and a hell of a lot of discussion with Walter Murch.
Yeah, well, I think he's in both versions. By the way, Kemi Egan sums it up nicely. There's no discussion anymore, as much as there is finger pointing if one person doesn't agree with someone else. Yeah, for my personal podcast, the Blackcast, I had a conversation with someone named Andrew Heaton yesterday, and that'll be a future episode of the Blackcast audio that'll be posted. And we talked a lot about how just people are that's just sort of what passes for debate and conversation. The way that people talk about politics, and it's so divided. It's like, well, now it's like people need to talk that way about Star Wars movies or Marvel movies. And it's, it's like, don't get mad at me because I don't want to watch Game of Thrones. I just don't like that stuff. I don't like fantasy. I don't like dragons. I don't like hobbits and shit. That's what I say to make Game of Thrones fans angry, though. But
Christian, you do like nudity.
Yeah, but that's a separate button in my brain. I go to YouPorn for that. Here's the thing. I like nudity when it's step baby sisters. No, step babysitters. See, I even tried to make a joke and then I said it wrong. Step babysitters. Sisters. No, but I said the wrong thing.
That was the end of Marvel movie talk, ladies and gentlemen.
Forever. No, step babysitters. See, I was trying to be funny, and in fact, I just made it worse.
Wow, yeah. One letter difference is the difference between being a free man and being in jail.
Yeah.
And being in the registry for the rest of your life.
Yeah. There's a number of registries that I'm on. But hey, look, Daniel Drew appreciated it. Daniel Drew thought it was funny. Yeah. Step babysitter porn is what I think is the setting that I have for YouPorn.
Oh
God. We laughed, so and maybe you can pass that lesson along to your students later.
I'm just practicing. No, Your Honor, I assumed he was kidding.
I'm just take an extra second when you're trying to talk. Don't be in such a rush to try and be funny. Sometimes it's worth being careful. But anyway, so I don't know. I think that people can talk about this show the way that they want. If you hate this show, that's fine. Just tell us why. It's probably because we've lost half of the cast as we've gone along. But the good news is that we've reached our limit for this installment. But we'll be back tomorrow with more Marvel movie talk at 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern. We will talk about the Loki finale, and we look forward to having everybody that's in the chat right now join us. Kemi Egan says, I'm dying over here. That makes both of us. But we look forward to everybody joining us for our conversation on Loki tomorrow. And then we'll talk about what's coming up for the show over the next couple weeks. But until then, Eric, where can people keep in touch with you?
Well, I will be leading a book club discussion of the Babysitters Club immediately after this show. The Step Babysitters Club over at Count Eric Connor on Twitter and Instagram. I float around Facebook with my middle name Eric Adam Connor. Me and Harbor's Beard also worked on the documentary. Besides The Cutting Edge, also other voices, Asawata Herim, which sounds fancier, over on Amazon. So thank you. And Christian, good luck in your trial.
My wife's on jury duty right now, so I'll see if I can get the trial fast-tracked, and we'll pretend we don't know each other. And then we just need her to make sure that it's a hung jury, and then everything will be fine, and then I'll be back for tomorrow,
Well, good luck to Heather as well.
Yeah, exactly. But we appreciate everybody joining us for the panel in the live chat on a special day and time. We appreciate all of that. We will see you tomorrow talking Loki. But until then, as the great Stan Lee would say, Excelsior!